The Rising Hawk is a 2019 historical action film directed by Akhten Saityevleyev and John Wynn. Based on the 1883 Ukrainian historical fiction novel Zakhar Bekrut by Ivan Franko, it stars Robert Patrick as Zakhar Bekrut, Tommy Flanagan as Boyar Tugar, Alex McNicol as Naxim, Poppy Drayton as Miroslava, and Zegmid Zerinbold as the best character, Borunda. It's a fictionalized account of a Mongol attack on a village in the Carpathian Mountains in 1241, and it's not very good. That doesn't mean there is nothing of worth within this far too long movie, or that we cannot use it to help educate ourselves on this exciting period. Let's introduce the film, the aspects I did like, and then what I didn't. Filmed in Ukraine with an international cast. Americans, Brits, Ukrainians, with Kazakhs and one Mongolian making up the Mongol army. It's an adaptation of the Ukrainian epic Zakhar Bekrut, which you can find an English translation of online. I read several chapters and found that the film follows the book relatively closely, as far as film adaptations of books go. The novel story is fictional, and only loosely mirrors the historical events. The film is even looser. The film isn't trying to show the Mongol invasion of Europe, rather a version wherein the whole Mongol invasion force is led by a Borunda Khan, and is taken against a single Carpathian village in revenge for the death of the Khan's son. While I haven't discussed it on this channel, I have written in quite some detail on the Mongol invasion of Europe in the podcast series I write for Kings and Generals. You'll find 4 episodes there on the entire Great Western Invasion. Borunda is based on the historical Borodai, also called Burundai, a son of Borchu, the closest companion to Chinggis Khan. Borundai was a top commander in the conquest of Rus and Europe, and led in 1259 a campaign to subjugate Daniel of Galicia and invade Poland again. However, Borundai was not a descendant of Chinggis Khan, so was never a Khan, rather a Noyan. To spoil a film you'll probably never watch, Borunda attacks this small Carpathian village, where our plucky heroes, fighting in the name of freedom, break a dam and it drowns the whole Mongol army. Really accurate stuff. It's basically 300 in the Carpathians, brave patriots heroically killing scores of enemies who just run into their axes. Honestly, the film's best work is the costumes, particularly those of the 2 best characters, Tugar and Borunda. Designed by Belinska Costumes, these are well done for a film. Chibs is well protected in a set of Rus Lamalar over mail. Good protection, nice and well maintained. This is the expensive armor of a boyar, and well represented. He should have a helmet, but perhaps he didn't grab it before they burned his house down. The armor which really deserves commendation is Borunda Khan, played by Zegmid Zerinbold. In my opinion, he is the best part of this film, stealing every scene he is in and delivering, when he is allowed to, a good performance. The scene of him finding his son's body I found very effective. It's a shame they don't give him much to do beyond giving orders after that. He is also the only Mongolian actor in the film, and you may recognize him as playing Chinggis Khan in the first scene of Netflix's Marco Polo Season 2. Perhaps I'm biased since this channel isn't called Jackmeister Carpathian History, but I was rooting for him. His armor is a lovingly crafted set of lamalar with laminar bands. The description on scene is from Belinka Costumes' official Instagram, and it really demonstrates the care they went into making this piece. Unlike many faux lamalar armors you see in movies and TV, where the lamalar plates are merely decorative on top of a leather backing, Borunda's suit actually accordions with his movement. The folds, or skirts, protecting the legs could have been larger, and the arm protection is a bit closer to the bazubans we see during Timurid times. Further, his del, clothing beneath the lamalar, should be more brightly colored. Here he's in black, because movie villains have to wear black. He should have a helmet as well, but other than that, this is one of the best on-screen Mongol armors I've ever seen. The best armor for the best character. For the main heroes, I'm not knowledgeable enough on their area to really comment on it, but generally it looks well made. There's a shoulder armor here which even Belinska Costume says is fantasy. The other Mongols are not fantastic. Take this fellow, one of the generals. The eye patch with rivets is silly. The helmet is too wide compared to the historical examples I've seen. This shoulder protection is not protecting anything. Mongol leather armor, most notably in the form of laminar bands, was made of layers of leather and could be quite thick and rather rigid. These bands were held together by lacing, allowing them to move with the wearer. This right here is not doing that. His lamellar is made of leather though, which, to be honest, I'm not sure on. Since leather survives so poorly archaeologically, it's hard to really comment conclusively on its usage as lamellar. This fellow to Borunda's left is going to get killed wearing that. These studs sticking out of the leather are not studded leather. They're supposed to be the rivets holding on to metal plates on the inside of this suit for brigandine. This doesn't look thick enough to actually be holding plates. All their helmets are too wide. The dells of the regular Mongols are also far too dark and uniform. We would expect to see a great variety of colors among them, being that each was made by their own families. This is more so the constraints of budget than anything. Borunda gets the screen time and the close-ups, so he gets the detail. There just is not the time or the money to provide the same for every single soldier in the background. Overall, the costumes are generally better than many with far bigger budgets. Disney should have hired Miss Belinska, and unlike Mulan, Rising Hawk actually made it to the public. We've already noted how the plot is not based on actual events. Even the time of year is wrong. The Mongols crossed the Carpathians over March 1241, whereas this film takes place in late summer by the looks of things. Borunda Khan is, of course, a mangled version of the historical Boroldai Noyan, who was certainly not killed by villagers in the Carpathians in 1241. Plot is one thing, but how about feel? Does the film capture the idea of the Mongol invasion of Europe in any manner? The total destruction of villages shown in the film is accurate, and attested by both sources and archaeology, though the heroes find many usable arrows and weapons left behind. These would have been recovered by the Mongols unless broken. The Mongols did fall upon villages suddenly without warning. Local peoples joining the Mongols and fighting for them also happened, even in Hungary, though they would not have been given Mongol troops to command as in the film. The film implies that Tommy Flanagan has been cooperating with the Mongols since the Battle of the Kalka River. This is less likely, considering how brief the Mongol stay in the region was in 1223. How the film treats the military ability of the Mongols is one of its greatest fumbles, and the following complaint will be a bit of my personal taste. After their first destructive raid, the Mongols capture more villagers off-screen. The main protagonist, Maxim, and his brother sneak into the Mongol camp, strangely unguarded, contrary to Mongol practice, and is like a war god unleashed upon them. Seriously, this chief's son from an isolated village in the Carpathian Mountains is such a good fighter, particularly in his first encounter with the Mongols, that it completely deflates the tension. All of these Mongols had experienced campaigning their entire lives. For two unarmored individuals who, as far as the film tells us, have not been in an actual battle before, to be so incredibly deadly is like something from a video game and makes the main antagonists, your main threat, look like chumps. Instead, Maxim is so stupidly effective that he might as well be wielding lightsabers. It gets worse as the movie goes on. Mongol archery in a film is embarrassingly bad. The bows are so poorly designed that they barely maintain their shape. Several times, people on screen hold war bows at full draw for minutes without effort, making most of these persons some of the strongest in history. In one scene, mounted Mongol archers shoot flaming arrows at the Slavs running from them on foot. Why would you do this? This literally only makes the arrows less effective for this purpose, and slows the archers down considerably. There are a few brief shots of mounted archery, the mainstay of Mongol warfare, but they quickly cut away from these. Furthermore, most of the Mongol army is fighting on foot. This is an army with more horses than men. Why would any Mongol be on foot? A Mongol without a horse is like a bird without wings. This culminates in the final battle, wherein a Mongol cavalry charge of about a dozen riders, with no preceding discharge of arrows, is defeated with wooden stakes. Giving up on their horses, the rest of the Mongol unit arrives, all on foot, and charges an enemy shield wall. It's harder to get Mongol tactics more wrong. It's like presenting Greek hoplites getting out of their shield wall and spinning at Persians in slow motion. It's only happening because the director thought it looked cool. And here's the thing, the Mongols have something for this. They drive captured local peoples before them to absorb enemy arrows, fill in moats, and push equipment in sieges and disrupt enemy formations. If you want the Mongols to be your villains in your movie, how do you not use that? The battle breaks into a bunch of individual duels and guys spinning around, as every movie needs to do. This was the absolute last thing any commander wanted, as it's a great way to end up with horrifically high casualties. It's effectively impossible to keep command of an army when it breaks up like that, and considering most of the Mongols in the film are better armored and have swords compared to tunic-clad peasants with spears that are barely straight, Maxim and the T-1000 really dropped the ball here. There's also some shoddy CGI and at times really awful sound mixing. In one scene, Tommy Flanagan addressed a crowd, and about half of his lines I couldn't actually hear, but I could hear his horse moving around. There are also a bunch of guys heroically shouting how they're fighting for their freedom and other patriotic things. This is something for the modern audience, which frankly I expect from most of these historical action films. It's hard to even critique, since it's such a mainstay of the genre. Really, other than the costumes, this is a below average, far too long film which I will not watch again. What a sweeping note to end the video on.